This video is designed to help you understand the difference between a deliberative paper and a research paper and to give you more guidance on what your final deliberative paper for English 305W should look like. Typically what you're familiar with writing is a research paper. So what this infographic does is it compares deliberative papers to research papers point by point. So as you can see, the deliberative paper is on the left and the research paper is on the right. So I'll start with the research paper. Research papers typically address an issue by persuading readers of a specific side. Deliberative papers do not do this. They are not persuasive, and that is not the final goal or the final outcome. Instead, what a deliberative paper does is it addresses an issue of concern to the writer and the writer's community by outlining all of the different ideas that surround a particular argument. How are researchers talking about this idea? Why are they talking about it? What do they have in common? And what are the differences in how they talk about that same issue? A research paper typically considers multiple perspectives, positions in the rhetorical situation to persuade the reader why their side is right. So they use information that supports their position and information in opposition to their position to develop their ideas. Instead, a deliberative paper considers multiple perspectives, positions in the rhetorical situation to understand the underlying ideas and ideologies. How are researchers talking about? How are researchers defining? What is influencing that particular decision? Is it a research method? Is it a cultural idea? Is it a language difference? What is influencing them to understand the idea in a certain way that's making them talk about your topic? And that's where the difference or the similarities lie. A research paper develops a paper organization based on the major persuasive points of the argument. So if I were writing a paper on why global warming actually exists, I would lay out the points. Car emissions, carbon emissions, and I would just lay out my points like that, and then I would find research to support them. What a deliberative paper does instead is it looks for the major works that are in that particular area. So it would say, who is researching global warming in the field of biology, and then what are all of those people saying? And then if a handful of people are talking about how to fix it with algae that eats carbon, and other people are talking about how to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, those would be my major headings. I'm not making a judgment about any of those headings. I'm simply saying here's where all of the research lies, and then within each of these individual fields, here's how researchers are discussing the idea of global warming. Here are the similarities amongst these researchers, and here are the differences. So then my conclusion comes to, here's the information that's been done, here are some possible avenues that we can research further, not here's why my side is right. A research paper uses sources to persuade, like I mentioned, use them to support or in opposition. Instead, a deliberative paper explains all of the sources, developing connections among them to highlight themes of research. Finally, the purpose of a research paper is to persuade an audience of a particular point of view. The purpose of a deliberative paper, however, is to understand and inform about the underlying ideologies of how an issue is discussed within a discipline. So you're not just talking issue by issue, and you are absolutely not just providing a summary of each source that you read similar to an annotated bibliography. Instead, you're finding sources that talk about things similarly or that talk about things differently, and talking about what those similarities are, what those differences are, what that means, how we understand that, possibly how the researchers in that particular field came to that point of view, and then what to do about it. So an idea for a research paper, like I mentioned, is to prove why global warming exists and to then tell us what to do about it. A deliberative paper instead would say, how are people in a particular field discussing global warming? What types of research are being conducted in global warming? And what does that tell us about the underlying ideologies of the biology field toward a topic like global warming? And that's the extent of what the paper does. As always, email me if you have any questions about this final paper or anything else in the course.